You will find no other demographic to be as likely to promote anti-vaccine bullshit as mothers. And especially mothers who have their first kid. I don't know what the hell it is, but for some reason these women develop the golden uterus syndrome, which I guess you can describe as the idea that just because you have the ability to create a life, you somehow know just instinctively what's best for that life. Which is kind of like if JR said that simply because he has the ability to poop, that somehow makes him an expert at running a sewage system. Speaking of shit, do you have anything to add, JR?
Our Mother, bearer of the womb, hallowed be thy name, thy vagina come, protect us from vaccines and the deceit of doctors, and deliver us from public education. For thine is the kingdom of infallible knowledge. Amen.
Honey, I appreciate the thought, but I'm feeling a little uncomfortable.
Hi, my name is Shanna, and we are a vaccine-free family. I wasn't always going to not vaccinate.
Oh boy, one of these. You hear this all the time.
I used to be an atheist, but then I started studying the Bible and evolution, and now I'm a creationist.
I used to believe in global warming, but then I found some websites, and now I know it's all a lie. It really is all a lie. It is an attempt to strawman the position of being opposed to a belief into a position of ignorance, when, in reality, in the sphere of everyone who is educated in medicine and vaccinations, there is no disagreement on their safety and effectiveness. Just because you did not used to be an anti-vaxxer doesn't mean you are smart. You knew nothing about vaccinations before, and then you filled the empty chasm in your mind with a bunch of shit. It is really a shame, and it would make teaching you the real science far more difficult. Because before anyone can teach you anything, they would first have to get you to understand why the things you are certain about are actually completely wrong. It is sort of like climbing Mount Everest, but starting inside a pit lined with dirty diapers. It would be an excruciatingly unpleasant process, struggling to make any progress at all, and the whole experience would end up leaving me feeling dirty and sick to my stomach.
In fact, my husband is a chiropractor.
Oh, wonderful. Your husband is as useless as you are. Sometimes people just find their perfect matches.
And when we were pregnant, or when I was pregnant, I had this trump card that I played that said, basically, I'm the mom and I get to decide because I carried the baby.
Oh, Jesus Christ. You did not just say that. Did you have to earn the ability to become pregnant? Did you have to journey through the ruins of Tristram, level up a few times by farming some enemies, and then read a scroll of ovulation?
Did you have to study for years at a university, work at an internship, write a thesis, and conduct a graduate project to earn a PhD in squirting tiny humans out of your hoo-ha?
No, you did nothing. There is no required skill or knowledge set to become a mother. All you have to do is be a healthy female of childbearing age. You do not get credit for a biological fact, nor does said fact provide you with any type of knowledge or insight that would make you a superior parent or more worthy of having dominion over the rearing of your child. That is why women who are deemed as unfit parents have their custody revoked by the government. If you were right, then all mothers would have the instinct and knowledge to be parents simply by becoming pregnant. I feel sorry for your husband. He is out there every day making an honest living, so you can stay home and make crappy YouTube videos, and you have devalued him as a parent simply because of the function of sexual reproduction.
Wow, we've gone through a full page of script. How far into the video are we? God damn it.
So he was okay with that. He said, that's fine. However, I want you to read a book. And it was, at the time, a book called The Sanctity of Blood by Dr. Tim O'Shea.
Oh wow, so your husband is a cuck and an idiot. The Sanctity of Blood is a book by Tim O'Shea. Dr. O'Shea is a chiropractor working in San Jose, California. He has published 15 books over the past 35 years. all of which received little or no attention until he started producing at least 7 editions of The Sanctity of Blood, which has become somewhat popular with the anti-vax crowd. Which is probably why he keeps releasing new versions of it. O'Shea is a definite quack whose claims are only ever backed up by his own intuition and conclusions. He believes that germs and viruses do not cause illnesses. Remember, he likes people to call him doctor. And his only evidence for this claim is that the manufacturers of antibiotics and antiviral agents make money by selling them. So if you take anything this guy says seriously, it paints a pretty poor picture of your ability to do research and to make objective decisions.
And at that time, I couldn't find it.
Impressive. You're even incompetent at bad research.
So while shopping one day in a whole type of market with Whole Foods and books and whatnots, I came across a book called the Vaccinesafety Manual.
Written by Neil Z. Miller. Like O'Shea, he is associated closely with the now-defunct anti-vaccine group known as WAVE. He is also the director of another anti-vaccine group called Think Twice Global Vaccine Institute. Miller's only credential is a Bachelor's of Science in Psychology. He is known to still cite the disgraced and discredited MMR vaccine and autism study by former Dr. Andrew Wakefield, and believes the tetanus vaccine is not required because the tetanus antitoxin exists. Despite the fact that there are risks and side effects to the antitoxin, and the chances of serious side effects to the vaccine are practically non-existent.
Alright, so let's talk about tetanus. Tetanus is, in worst case scenario, a very deadly infectious disease which is caused by the bacteria Clostridium tetani. The bacteria is found all over the world in soil, filth, manure, and feces. Usually infection happens through wounds, which are caused by puncturing or cutting. Once the bacteria is inside the body, it produces the AB toxin, tetanus toxin, which affects the nerves and causes very severe and painful muscle cramps. The illness is actually not contagious between people, however, which makes this kind of rare. It's actually when the bacteria dies in your body that this tetanus toxin is released. The reason you get these cramps is because of the nerve endings acetylcholine is not broken down normally, but is remaining. And this in turn constantly agitates the muscle, causing it to have a remaining contraction throughout your skeletal muscles. This happens when the toxin is transported through your nerves to your spine, and it blocks the release of the neurotransmitter in the spine's inhibitory interneuron. The time for incubation is somewhere between 3 to 21 days. According to the CDC, your child should get the tetanus shot when it's 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, 15 to 18 months, 4 to 6 years, and 11 to 12 years. The tetanus shot doesn't usually just protect against tetanus. It can also protect against diphtheria and whooping cough. There are generally 2 vaccines that help protect children against tetanus, DTaP and Tdap. Now, unlike what some people think, the side effects of the tetanus shots are not as severe as you might believe. The overwhelming majority of children who take the tetanus shot do not get any side effects from either DTaP or Tdap. In some cases, you see very mild symptoms such as reddening, swelling, or pain where the shot was given, or fever, sometimes mild vomiting. DTaP can, in very, 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 very rare cases, give a fever over 105 degrees, as well as some seizures. If you're a preteen or a teen, you might even faint after getting a Tdap or any other shot. But again, these are really rare side effects. And the fainting can easily be prevented by having adolescents seated or lying down during the vaccination and remain in that position for 15 minutes after the vaccine is given. But when it comes to the more severe side effects that I just mentioned, when it comes to these 2 vaccines regarding tetanus shots, how rare are they? Well, about 1 in a million.
And I'm a researcher, and I may not be a researcher by career, but I'm a researcher in life.
You are an armchair scientist who got a degree at the University of the Fields. Next.
And so when I found this book, what I liked about it was that it was unbiased. And I didn't want somebody on a pro side to tell me why I needed to do it. And I didn't want somebody on an anti side tell me why I shouldn't do it. I just wanted to know what it was about.
Oh my God. 3 things wrong here. First off, you cannot be a centrist with vaccines. You either accept the evidence that vaccines save lives or you do not. You either fall for the rumor that vaccines cause autism or you have a brain. Second, supporting the use of vaccinations does not make one biased. The way you describe it, the only way to be unbiased would be to stay on the fence. But you could not stay on the fence unless you are ignorant of vaccines and the controversy surrounding them, which would make anything you say on the topic useless for either side. Holding a position does not necessarily make one biased. You do not know what non-biased means, and you probably do not know what centrism means. Finally, Neil Z. Miller is not biased. He cites Andrew Wakefield and is affiliated with 2 anti-vaccination groups. He couldn't be more biased.
And then at the end of each section was the situations that happen to people that have taken these vaccines. So whether it's an injury or just a damage, I'll say, it was listed at the end of each chapter. And I was shocked. I was shocked that very basic immunity-building things that I've been told were causing harm.
I have not read this particular book or seen Miller's particular examples, but I have seen many others, and they are all very similar. Both Miller and O'Shea have attributed everything including food allergies, asthma, bedwetting, fibromyalgia, and of course autism to vaccinations. Over the last 2 to 3 or 4 generations, many health issues and learning disorders have become properly understood and documented, instead of being dismissed or subjected to the whims of superstition and rumor. Not only that, but information about them is much more readily available. In a century, we went from being almost completely isolated from the happenings of distant strangers to being bombarded by them. So now we have a population of people with unprecedented access to information on topics they cannot understand. Every strange, scary, and rare disorder is given its own hour-long documentary, and we are taught about more ways to care for our children's health than our parents learn about caring for ours. All this creates a false impression in naive minds that each generation has become less healthy than the one that preceded it. Various groups have tried to find something to pin as the culprit: genetically modified foods, mass-produced meat, wearing shoes. But the thing that got the most widely accepted blame was vaccinations, which also has seen an increase in use over the last 100 years. The irony being that vaccines have actually saved far more lives than any of those other innovations. All in all, it is one big causation-correlation fallacy.
And so when I looked at some of these vaccines and I saw side effects were leukemia.
Leukemia? Seriously? When and how did a vaccine ever cause blood cancer? Sandre, help me out here.
Okay, so let's take a look at this paper, Risk of Childhood Leukemia Associated with Vaccination, Infection, and Medication Use in Childhood, the Cross-Canada Childhood Leukemia Study. Now, if we go down in the study and read, we will find that no association was found between childhood leukemia and exposure to several common vaccines, including the measles, mumps, and rubella, diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, poliomyelitis, or Bacillus calmette-guerin vaccines. Several illnesses and common infections in childhood, including measles, mumps, rubella, chickenpox, and ear infections, were not associated with leukemia in the overall study group, or among cases diagnosed with all. No relation between illness in childhood and childhood leukemia was found when data were examined according to age at diagnosis or timing of exposure.
Or when I was learning about the disease in itself, and I learned that that's one of the number one killers, I should say, for children under the age of 8. I thought there's a correlation to this.
What the hell does that even mean? How can you have multiple number ones of something? That is not how lists work. Anyway, let us see what the New England Journal of Medicine has to say about the most common causes of death in children and adolescents. The most common cause of death is injury, which I assume includes falls, household accidents, fire, etc. In a distant second is motor vehicle crashes, so buckle up and look both ways. Third is firearm related, and most of those are intentional homicide. Fourth is malignant neoplasm at 9.1%, which basically means a cancerous tumor, which may include leukemia, but let us break this down. Leukemia is the most common childhood cancer, standing at about 20% of all childhood cancer rates. Unfortunately, it has a 90% survival rate, which means that the number of children killed by it is 10% of the total childhood leukemia incidence, which makes up 20% of childhood cancers, which is 9.1% of all childhood deaths. What this boils down to is that of all the childhood deaths in the USA, leukemia amounts for 0.182% of them. So, no, it is not one of the top 10 killers of children. Not by a long shot. All of that is beside the point because there is no link between vaccines and causing cancer of any kind.
Now, what I find kind of ironic about this whole thing is that you know how these people who are into New Age stuff, who also happens to usually be anti-vaxxers, they always push, the idea that you should enrich yourself with vitamins and whatnot? Well, actually, it says here, with respect to medication use, an excess risk of leukemia was observed among children that had ever taken vitamin supplements. So in other words, giving your kid a vitamin supplement has larger statistical evidence behind it to cause leukemia than an actual vaccine. Also, milk supplementation was positively associated with childhood leukemia. So yeah, not only vitamins, but also baby formula has a higher statistical chance, according to the study, to cause leukemia than an actual vaccine. The idea that vaccinations alone will give you a much higher prevalence of cancer is pretty idiotic. In fact, since vaccines protect against viruses and some bacteria that we know in some cases can cause mutations that give cancer, on average, vaccinations, if we go just by the statistics of it, should prevent cancer. Take the HPV vaccine and how it protects against the HPV virus. It's given to girls at a fairly young age to prevent them from developing cancer later on in life. Although it's shown that boys would benefit from this vaccine too.
Well, actually, I guess in a way, vaccines actually do cause more cancer. Your chances of getting cancer increase as you get older. It is just a fact of the flawed process of DNA replication. So, vaccinating your children increases the chance that your children will live long enough to get cancer. Aha! In your face! Science!
And I sat on the floor of this market at however many months pregnant. I think I was close to 9 months pregnant. And I just started reading from the front cover, and I turned page after page after page.
So you were in the way of other customers and reading a book you did not pay for. Are we sure your name is Kelsey and not Karen?
And to be honest with you, I wept. I cried for these women, for these fathers, for these mothers. I wasn't even really a mom yet, but I was carrying a life inside me, and I was responsible. I'm responsible for everything that this child is going to be doing in life. It's my job. It's my job to be the voice, and it's also my job to be the caregiver.
And you have failed in that. You have failed in providing your daughter with proper medical care. I truly believe you have the best of intentions, but to put it bluntly, you are thick. And not the good kind of thick with 2 C's. The bad kind of thick with a CK. Because your ass is f***ing stupid. You are fooled by unsubstantiated claims and have not done any proper research.
The sad thing is, there are people who watch this woman and believe everything she says. Let me take a moment to check out the comments. There's not much here. Oh boy, we have another anti-vaccination mother. Peter D says,
I wish I read and knew what you did before I vaxxed my daughter. She is vaccine damaged. I am not anti-vax. I hate that term. I am pro-choice. Oh God, she's conflating choosing not vaccinating with abortion now? Do I have to spell this out for you?
We're due till... Hello? Hello? Anybody home? Huh?
Choosing whether or not to have a child is not the same as choosing whether or not to provide said child with suitable medical care.
Did Kelsey respond? Yes, she did.
There is a lot more to this, as this is something at the physical level, but we actually have 5 bodies we are operating with a real awareness.
What? What? You can actually learn to communicate with your daughter through your dreams at night? What the? Oh my crap, this woman is insane. She is actually insane. Okay. What did Pete D say back? She is autistic, not nonverbal. She speaks well and we communicate in person. Yeah, why did Kelsey assumed this woman's daughter was nonverbal. This young girl is some sort of high-functioning autistic, probably Asperger's syndrome. She'll probably make a really good scientist, engineer, accountant, or something like that, and some guy will find her cute, quirky, and marry her. It is not the end of the world, and it is not because of vaccines.
And that was my first step into, I may not vaccinate, but I'm certainly not going to jump into the hospital and vaccinate.
I do agree that it is wise to educate yourself on things that your doctor tells you. By all means, research treatments and medications. If you have a bad or otherwise unsatisfactory experience with a doctor, find a new doctor and get a second opinion. You, however, have been duped by people without any medical education and have not checked any of their claims. You just read some books and assumed everything they said was true. You fail to understand the impact vaccines have had, you do not grasp the reality of what would happen to our population if they were eliminated, and you grossly misinterpret the risks associated with vaccines and have not correctly contrasted them with the risks of not vaccinating.
What you have done is the same thing conspiracy theorists have always done. You found a fringe belief system that scared you with horror stories about mainstream policies, and then, like all conspiracy theorists, you now automatically distrust anything mainstream. Any attempt at correcting your misunderstanding is dismissed because you believe anyone not sharing your beliefs is simply ignorant. Or if it comes from someone educated in this topic, what they say becomes woven into this conspiracy you have created in your mind. This conspiracy is like a warm blanket you wrapped yourself in. It keeps you comfortable and protected from the cold, hard reality.
You think that you have got it all figured out, and that those of us who follow medical advice are the sheep who blindly do what the establishment tells us without doing any research. But the truth is, you have it ass backwards. You are too readily willing to believe claims that go against the widely accepted science. Any claims, as long as they disagree with established science, become instantly credible in your mind. You are the sheep. And with your head held high, your heart filled with smug pride and an undeserved sense of superiority, you are following them, hand in hand with your little girl, straight off a cliff. There are few things that frustrate me more than people who needlessly endanger the lives of children while simultaneously believing that their bucking of conventionalism is actually improving their lives. Well, we are well past the 20-minute mark. What do you say, Sandre? Two-parter?
Two-parter.
Written by Zeal. No, Seal. Written by Zeal. Zeal, again, I did it. Really, Zeal. Ready?
I'm ready. Honey, I appreciate the thought, but right now I'm feeling a little uncomfortable.
No, I don't like it. That was a little more robotic and a matter of fact than the way I demonstrated it.
Okay, try again.
Honey, I appreciate the thought, but I'm feeling a little uncomfortable.
Okay, I will give that a try.
Right.
Honey, I appreciate the thought, but right now I'm feeling a little uncomfortable.
Better.
I'm feeling uncomfortable! You made me feel uncomfortable! Stop making me feel uncomfortable!
Stop.
No, but you might want to use some of this. You are making me feel uncomfortable, young man. You better stop making me feel uncomfortable! Okay.
Right.
You want to try again?
Yeah, make sure you're frowning when you do this, alright?
But I've got Botox right now, so it's hard to frown.
I'm definitely putting that in.
Oh, don't you dare!